Hey, Alice, welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to do the intro?
Oh, yeah. Kia ora, and welcome to Untidy. I am, of course, your host, Alice Soper, and with me, as always, is Hannah. How are you doing, Hannah?
Oh, hey, I'm great, and thanks. What a treat to have it introed.
Look, do what I can.
Oh, thank you. Hey, well, for the people who, I don't know how they would have missed our previous episode together, but if they did, how do you introduce yourself to people, as in who you are and what you do?
Oh, it depends on how much trouble I want to get into.
Get into as much trouble as you like.
Look, I am an accidental activist and a troublemaker on behalf of women's sports here in Aotearoa. I was a player for a number of years myself of our national game, which is, of course, rugby union, but I hung up my boots a few years ago, but went to the sidelines, kept yelling, and that's what I do most of the time, and it hasn't slowed down this week because there's been all types of news dropping, like Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe, she's out of retirement. She wanted to go to the World Cup.
I wanna do this as well. I've got my arms in the air. I don't know what it means.
It's so huge, okay? You
Yes.
need to understand that Portia Woodman-Whitcliffe is the top try scorer of all time, men's and women's, at World Cups. And she had announced her retirement after the Olympics, because she's a sevens player as well. And she said, look, I'm done. I want to have babies. I'm not doing this anymore. I'll play domestically, but no more black jersey for me. And then she said, psych, April Fools, I'm coming back. And so she has just won a championship with the Blues. Thank goodness for the Blues rugby, because she had such a good time there. She's decided that she wants to keep that party going. And so she's going to make herself available for Blackburn selection, which is very exciting.
We're very excited about this.
Yes, huge news.
Great. Huge news. I know you were just complaining about all of the news that's been dropped in a very short week, because at time of recording, it's Tuesday. We're just sandwiched in between Easter and Anzac Day. There's really no time to be doing anything. We were like, there's only time for social media. It should be preloaded.
Yeah.
You know, can anyone else demand anything more of us?
Yeah, and they were like, why don't we announce all the squads and also the biggest name in women's rugby coming out of retirement? Just little treats for your Tuesday. Meanwhile, I was like, oh, sorry to my podcast co-host. Oh, yeah, I didn't do that in the intro. I co-host a women's rugby podcast with my mate Les Elder, former captain of the Black Ferns. We had this news drop this morning, and I was like, Les, I can't go to the press conference because I'm going to get tattooed. I'm going to get tattooed. So can you... do you want to go? And she was like, well, I've never gone to a press conference before. I said, bro, you'll be able to go. People ask dumb questions. You'll be real onto it. Like, don't even worry. And so she went along. So huge news in women's rugby today. A, that Portia Woodman is out of retirement. And B, that Les Elder went to her first press conference today and she did so well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, and hey, what's the tattoo?
Oh, okay. So...
what have we got?
Wrapped up in cling film currently. What it is a nod to my favourite World Cup, which is the 1991 World Cup, which was the one that was organised without permission and just sheer audacity of a group of women out of England. 4 of them came together and were like, we need to have a World Cup. And so they put it on and they organised it themselves and invited people from around the world. And New Zealand took part in that one too. But it was from that initiative that then kicked things off for, you know, really solidifying international women's rugby in the modern era. And so now we have a World Cup year this year. But I was like, I have a series of tattoos right next to my scrums and a love heart. I now have the original logo from that 91 World Cup before World Rugby came over and kind of put their own logos on stuff. This was the original. So I was like, yeah, we'll put that one on there because I know what it means. It means don't ask permission, get things done. When you know it's right, get it done.
So cool. And don't even bother asking for forgiveness for that either, you know?
What are you forgiving? You should say you're welcome, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That is so cool. What a great act of... I mean, you can't even call it rebellion, really. Like, that's just crazy. It's just crazy. 1991 seems like it was 5 minutes ago.
Oh, you know what's funny about that is they did get in quite a lot of trouble because, like, World Rugby, who at that time were IRB, the International Rugby Board, they were like, why didn't you talk to us? And they're like, why would we? You guys had not organised anything to women's rugby. We didn't know we were supposed to talk to you because you've never spoken to us. So, again, another case of, like, why ask for permission? You've never spoken to us before. We're just going to get on with it. We thought you were organising men's games, so we thought we had to get on and organise ourselves.
Oh, That's great. I love people that just make it happen. Well,
Yeah.
so for people who are just tuning in and being like, what's happened? Matilda, we've given Matilda the day off for the second time because she's got a lot on. The lady's got a lot on. You know, she's working full time. She's trying to sell her house. It's all happening. She will be coming back. That we assure you. However, today Alice has kindly stepped into the hot seat again. I had some great feedback about the last
Oh,
show together. I know, right?
that's
So
nice.
cool. So cool. We're going to talk about a couple of things today.
We're going to stay on topic. We're going to do it. I believe in us.
Yeah, I believe in us too. So we are going to talk about motherhood. First, when we hung up the mics after the last show, we had a really interesting conversation, which is always what happens when you stop recording. You gave me a brief history
Oh, yeah.
of women's rugby and just what a patriarchal mess it turned out to be. Can you give the listeners a rundown of that? Because that was unreal.
I am a bit of a nerd for this stuff. You know, it's my special interest. So back in my early 20s, when I didn't have enough to do at work, I used to open up Papers Past and open up a spreadsheet and then just put any reference I could find to the women's game into the spreadsheet to create a little timeline for myself of what had been going on. So as far as I've been able to deduce from recorded records, so it's always recorded as well, because chances are, particularly when it comes to women's sports, a whole bunch of stuff was happening, but nobody thought it was important enough to record. We still see that today, so I guarantee that was happening in the beginning. But the first recorded instances of women playing in this country were in the 1800s. People often think women's rugby is new. No, it isn't. As long as rugby has been played in Aotearoa, women have been playing it. So 1888 is the first recorded match, and that was played here in my hometown of Te Whanganui-a-Tara in Wellington, and it was played between the Hallelujah Lasses, which were a Salvation Army outfit, I guess youth group. They had a girls team, and they played against the Wellington High. So I guess that was kind of like the precursor to Wellington Girls College, and they played against each other. And at that time, people were paying 5 shillings to go along. That's a lot of money.
A lot
at that time.
What would 5 shillings be now?
I think I looked at it in inflation a while back, and it was definitely over $40. That is not inconsequential to go watch some randos. Yeah, let people that be your lesson to you. Anyway,
the finger is out.
My favorite quote from that time was they played it. There were a couple of modifications to rules to protect women's dignity at that time. Oh my god!
Because I'm thinking you just think about those times and you go, everyone was getting about in a long skirt and some kind of corsetry.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure.
What did this even look like?
I'm pretty sure at that time they would have had to play in a version of a skirt, so it wouldn't have been
right.
Yeah, I know, right?
Real fast.
But my favorite part of it is they tried to do that. They also tried to modify some of the contact stuff, but even though they did that, there's still from the report that was written of this match in 1888, there's still a great pull quote from one of the players who's like, "You try that again and you come down my lane and see I don't throw a pitch of dirty water over you." So people were sledging in the first game. I'm like, yes, we have always been here. So that was 1888. 1891 is a woman named Nita Webb, who organised a little outfit at that time to actually go on a national tour of the country playing rugby. Now, I'm not going to pretend that that was progressive. It was kind of more of a look at the crazy ladies doing a thing,
right,
type of energy. But these women were assembled and paid. So actually the first time that women were paid to play in New Zealand, 1891.
Wow.
Not the 2000s like they tell you. So 1891, first time. Unfortunately, the actual tour didn't take place, but the coming together and the training and all of that did. So the actual tour didn't take place because I think her husband was convicted of fraud. Anyway.
They had a lot going on.
Anyway, that was the first one. And honestly, again, if you look up Nita Webb on Papers Past, honestly, you can spend great afternoons there. Check it out.
Did not even know this existed.
Old newspapers all on there. So if you look her up, again, there's just she wrote a letter to the editor in 1891, and a lot of what she had to say is the same version of what we have to say now. And so this is how, when dudes are being bums on seats and women aren't as strong and all that type of stuff. It's dude, that's your great granddad's ideas. All ideas also have a whakapapa, just like we do, right? And some of them are so old, so chuck them out already. So that was 1891. There was then like a series of kind of exhibition matches held over the next few years. In the 1920s, back here again in my hometown, there was a group of women who tried to set up a rugby club, and they did actually. They played a game against a team from Canterbury and a game against a team from Napier, from what I've been able to find. But my favourite story of that lot is at one point they went down to the local grounds in Miramar and were all wearing trench coats.
I
And
love a story that starts like this.
yeah, and we're waiting on the sideline, and then somebody was injured in the men's game, so they threw off their jackets and revealed that they were in full rugby kit, and they offered
Amazing.
themselves up as injury replacement. And the players on the day were like, "Oh yeah, go on then, girls," but the referee intervened and said they couldn't. So that was just like, again, what like fun that they were like really challenging it and putting it in people's faces. And the captain of that team, Phyllis Dawson, again, some great like, yeah, real rah-rah feminist rhetoric that's tied up against that. Because again, if you look at the history of women's sports, you'll see it will parallel the waves of feminism. So when we have that stuff happening around the 1800s, of course we do, because what else was going on at that time? It was suffrage. When we have things going on around the 1920s, 1930s, of course we do, because what was going on then, women really entering the workforce. And then again, we had things really kicking off in the 1980s. And why was that? Because that was the time in which, second wave feminism is telling women they could have it all. So there's a real parallel in all of these things all the way along. And the history of all women's sports is a protest. Nobody ever gave it to you, just like the tattoo on my arm. People had to turn up and take it for themselves. And then eventually they did that so well that the men would go, okay, we allow it. So yeah, that's a potted history for you, my friend.
Wow. It's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. I watched on the weekend a movie that was recommended by a recent guest, Dr. Stacey Sims. It's called Girls Can't Surf.
Oh, yep.
And it's about the female surfers that changed history and actually made the pay fair, the winnings fair. But it took decades, and it was shocking. I mean, it always is, but it's just like, it's so jarring to watch. I watched it with the kids because I wanted to watch a documentary about sports and about people persevering. Okay, so pop quiz.
Mm-hmm.
What year do you think that the winnings for surfing eventually became equal between men and women?
I'm going to say like 2007.
2019.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, very recent. Did you see that group over in Aussie? Oh, that was only like last year. There was just a local comp that was played, and it like for surfing, competition for surfing. I don't know. Yeah, that's the right words, I guess. There was a local meet that was happening for surfing, and they did the classic thing. So you say that was equal. That would have been probably on the world tour, right? Well, there's still a lot of inequity beneath that. That's often the case, actually, in women's sport. We might have got the headline stuff better. Please read beyond that, because chances are domestically we're still way behind, and most people still have jobs. Anyway, this local tournament was happening, and they had a category for men that was paying an amount, and they had an open one that was paying an amount, and the women's, I don't even think they had a category. So what did the women do? Group of women organized together and all entered the open category and took all the spots. And the organizers were like, what are you doing? You can't do that. This is supposed to be open grade. There was even one guy that was registered while they were getting organized. And so they messaged him and were like, dude, withdraw. We're trying to do a thing. And he was like, okay, ally. So he withdrew. And so what did they end up having to do? This bloody competition ended up having to basically rebrand it. So that open category then became the women's category, got that prize money, and then they opened another open category. And you're like, oh my God, we're still doing this. Yeah. So much stuff we're still doing. And I know, Hannah, the other thing I went on to you about last time is, please, people, read this book. This is called Open Play. This has only just come out like the last month or something ago. And it's by Cherie Becker and Stephen Mudford out of the UK. But they are making the case for feminist sport. And they have a whole thing to say about how we actually need to stop calling it women's sport, because women's sport actually makes us a subcategory of sport. Instead, we need to be embracing feminist sport, which is saying actually all these categories were only ever made up when women started winning. Before that, they didn't even have a notion that women would play sports, so they didn't have any division of genders in them. So, all of this stuff becomes really important, particularly with a whole bunch of the nonsense rhetoric that's going on at the moment that's particularly anti-trans. So please educate yourself on the history of women in sports, because they love using us as an example, and they can't, because it doesn't actually back up in terms of the biology or the history. So there you go.
Oh man, it's so infuriating. Like, why does everything have to come down to a protest for people just to go and do the thing that they love?
Particularly when it comes to sports, I do feel sometimes that we get a little bit lost in the source. Like, I love it, obviously, and it's mainly my job speaking about it now, but I'm like, team, at the end of the day, these are games we played as children. So, like, it's supposed to be fun.
Yeah.
Even if it's like it's still an entertainment product ultimately, and so
Yeah.
it should be fun. And we're putting a lot of stuff on it that it never really was supposed to be.
Yeah. So it always sort of is ending up becoming political.
Mm-hmm. Although that in itself, that whole argument of like sport and politics don't mix. I mean, the original that phrase was used by Robert Muldoon on the campaign trail in the 1980s. So like that statement in and of itself is political. And so like, unfortunately, anytime you get a group of people together trying to do anything, politics starts happening, because politics is just the organization of folks. So as soon as you start putting them together, they're going to bring politics into it.
There's going to be opinions.
Yep.
I mean, yeah. And if it was fair, there just wouldn't need to be that many opinions, would there? Like, if it was fair and everyone was just sort of enjoying themselves and doing the thing that they love to do.
But also, like, the notion that sports is fair is, no, that's not the point.
No, I see what you mean.
Do you know what I mean? Like, no. And it's what's more interesting is like, when is that unfairness celebrated versus when is it like told off? The classic one is Michael Phelps and his wingspan and his webbed toes and his way that his body processes lactic acid quickly is like, wow, amazing, ultimate athlete. And then you have various women who have risen right to the top in their sports who, because of all these arbitrary, like, there's a whole other, we're not going to get into that right now, Hannah. There's a whole other thing around the history of gender testing in sports and how basically each test has failed over time, because each test is trying to impose a binary onto our biology that doesn't exist. But like, I say that because there's so many stories of women that have risen all the way to the top only to find that their internal biology that they had no awareness of is out of alignment with what is of the day decided to be normal. And like that number normal is always infused with politics, because the latest version of testing was around testosterone, but that has a profoundly harder impact on athletes of color. Like, they have higher rates naturally. So it's like all of this type of stuff. It's like, oh my God, you can't draw the lines anywhere because it's not the boxes we've invented for each other. Oh, so messy.
So messy. So messy. And it's a really difficult conversation to have because, is anyone really equipped to make any kind of decision? I don't know. I don't even know. Like, I know what I would want, for every individual to be able to do the thing that they love to do to the greatest extent that they can do it. But how do people make decisions about, or do you have to like deconstruct the entire thing and build it back up again?
That's the answer.
Because,
unfortunately, that's the answer. Because this is like, most of our sports are like 100 years old and they were designed not for anyone except white, cis, heterosexual men. Like, and like, that's again one of the great quotes that's in this book. It says very early on, they say that sports are to men what beauty pageants are to women in terms of enforcing expectations of gender and performance of gender. And because you only need look at that, like I said at the beginning, that, I play our national game. Is it our national game for women? Because wouldn't you actually say that's netball, if we're being honest about participations and numbers? But whenever we talk about a national game for any country, what we actually mean is the one that's beloved by the old boys.
Yeah, it's true. Rather than the one that's most acceptable for women to excel in.
Yeah, right? And then there's also so much that's interesting around netball, around the way that sport was invented was under inherently misogynist notions. The whole idea of splitting up of the court and you can't run more than that is to do with like, let's not over fatigue these poor ladies.
Oh, really? They won't
Yeah.
cope.
No, 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 we couldn't. It's not good. I mean, when I'm talking about that team that played rugby in the 1920s, there's also all of these articles written by doctors of the day that is like, this is going to be terrible. People might be familiar with the rhetoric that came out of the UK that said if you ran, your uterus would fall out. Well, we had like,
Amazing.
we had a version of that here that was like, if you let women play rugby, this is going to be so bad. They're going to fall over and maybe never get up again because they won't have such a poor sense of direction. Their bones are so soft. They will have like permanent internal injury. Like childbirth doesn't exist. Like,
Yeah,
what are we
I
talking
was
about?
going to say, like, the only time that I've thought my uterus was going to fall out was after childbirth,
Right?
and I got on a trampoline for the first time and I was like, oh no.
Yeah. The only thing they may have been right on is they do also threaten that apart from the physical threats of women playing rugby, you have a very dangerous threat of mannish girls. And unfortunately, they've got one of those in me, so they might have been onto something there. But, you know, we're going to be everywhere and we're going to be bad candidates for marriage. And that's going to be terrible.
You might want to do something else,
Yeah.
than
Yeah.
get married. However, what a great segue, because you may want to do something else other than get married. Oh, well, no, wait. Aren't you engaged?
I am engaged, but you know what? We're just going to do that, I think, for our
Are
whole
you just going to be
lives.
engaged?
Yeah, we just want matching jewelry and to be like
That's nice.
fiancés, pay for the upgrade, be like, ooh, fancy
Yeah.
ladies.
And it's kind of got that excitement about it that something great is coming.
Yeah.
I mean, and every time you throw a party, your friends are going to be like, this is it.
Oh, they're going to have to turn up.
They're
Because
going to have to turn up because they're like,
that's it.
like you could be the type of people that would throw a surprise wedding and they'll just never know if it's coming or not.
Yeah, got to keep them guessing. No, we were like, well, we do it, but then we're not particularly in any type of rush. My poor fiance, she just has to propose back to me. I already did the proposal. I went in first, and people also get. It's so funny the little things people give you along the way, right? Like when I proposed to her, they would be like, oh, tell us the story, blah blah, and then they'd turn to me and be like, show us your ring, and I was like, I didn't get myself one. Like she has to propose back. I proposed to her. She has the ring. I don't have one right now. What do you think is going on here?
Yeah.
So that was it. That was a funny one. And then also that I'm like, no, she's going to propose back. And people are like, huh? You're only supposed to do it once. It's like, why? Who said? Like,
Exactly.
get it
There
back.
are no rules now.
No.
No, I like that because then it's like I'll ask you and say yes in that direction, but then you have to ask me and then I also have to say yes in the other direction. That's way more fair. And then everyone gets a turn being the asker and the askee.
Yeah, and you also get you get to have the special thing for you.
Yes, the special surprise.
Why should that happen only one way? That doesn't seem fair.
That's silly.
My poor fiance though, like since that happened, the price of gold, I don't think she's ever going to be able to propose back.
She's gonna have to sell a kidney or something.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen. I just keep on. I wind her up and just like every now and then just look at my poor naked finger and go,
It's quite exciting though because there's always then that element of surprise that she can have up her sleeve. Like if she needs to create an occasion or do something really special for you, she's always got like, well, I could pull out
level it up. Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing is though too, I don't know how she's going to pull it off because I love her. She's beautiful. She is quite oblivious a lot of the time. Like there are various points in that engagement story where she was like, just walked right past the point. She's just chill. She's so chill.
Well, what happened?
Oh, okay. So what
I want to know what kind of like proposer you are.
Oh,
like was there a lot of planning?
Yeah. So I had planned, and then I had the ring on me for like maybe 6 months before I did because I had to propose on a certain date because I proposed on the 21st of September so we could remember the date for the rest of our lives, And so, which thankfully that year was like a Thursday, so there was no red flag for her around like, oh, Alice is acting weird on the 21st of September. No, got away with that. So I had the ring for about 6 months, and that was funny during that 6 months because it was in my desk drawer, and she could have gone in there at any point. But I did make a joke during that period where she'd be like, oh, well, where's my ring? And I'd be like, point to it in the house, and it actually would be in there. And she'd be like, ha, ha, ha. But I was like, it is there though. So that's very funny for me. So yeah, 6 months. So then what had happened was, okay, the week of, her family had come like from overseas and were visiting, and so I needed to keep that date clear, even though I'd had it held for months. This family thing was a more recent visit. So what I did was I texted your best mate and I was like, you need to ask her to hang out with you on that date and then cancel for me because I'm going to propose. And she was like, okay, got it. And she had to really push because my partner was like, no, I think I might go out for dinner with the family that day. And she was like, no, I really need to talk to you. Like, I need to catch up.
You had to rely on her for her acting skills as well.
You can. Chloe is great at this. So she was like, set it up. The plan then was she would cancel by midday and then tell me when she did so I could swoop in straight away and make sure she didn't make any other plans. So just happened to text her afterwards, right? So Chloe is in conversation with Bailey, my partner. Bailey is then like, she's like, oh, I'm actually feeling a bit ill. I'm so sorry. Like I might have to reschedule. She's like, all good, da. Chloe texts me, it's like, it's on. So this then means I get the text that it's on. And so I text her straight away. I'm like, hey, babe, I've just been looking at these chairs on Facebook Marketplace.
Great.
These chairs on Facebook Marketplace. I was thinking I might pick them up after Mahi. If you want to come with me, we can grab some food on the way home. If you offer my darling food, she will come. So she was like, okay, sounds good. So she's in there. Now, I go to the Airbnb that I have booked, which is kind of just still in the region. Go there, set up the space for proposal, get everything right. Then the owner comes, bless her, she was lovely, but she ended up being quite chatty. And I was like, I need to get home because Bailey should be home from work soon. And like, I've taken like a couple of her things from the house, like her toothbrush, but actually more importantly, like the track pants that she gets into straight away after work. So like, she's going to notice. So anyway, I'm like stressed, drive back to the house. And Bailey's just tattooing around. She didn't notice anything because, like I say, oblivious. So she's just mooching around. I'm like, darling, we got to go. Should we go now? And she's like, okay, you're a bit intense, but okay. So while we're driving out there, she asked me about what I was up to during the day. I had to make up a whole lie about some meeting. It was a meeting I'd had like 2 days earlier, but I just lied and pretended like it was that day. And then told her, I think these chairs actually are in a place that maybe was an Airbnb. So like priming her for what that vibe could be. And she was like,
noted, good liar.
Yeah. So she was like, oh yeah, I think I've wanted to stay there. I was like, I know you've wanted to stay there, bitch. I've been planning this for 6 months. So we get there. I go to the full pretense of like getting out, putting the seats down in the car.
Love the detail.
And saying to her, all right, babe, you wait here. I'll go check where they are and pay them and whatever. And then I'll give you a shout. You can come help me with the chairs. She did not listen to me though. Okay. She stood there for a minute and then she thought, no, I want to see what this Airbnb looks like. But this is again the part where there's a point and my darling walks past it because she comes down and she's like, oh, where's Ella? She's not here. Looks inside, sees me inside the Airbnb, like messing around with stuff. I was like turning a camera on type of thing. She sees me doing this, still like, that's a normal thing Alice will be doing. Not like, where is the owner? Where are the chairs? None of that. She's just like normal. So she then like, in her little way, walks around and then comes into the place. And it's only when she steps in and then sees me and then sees what's kind of set up in the room that she's like, oh, like,
that's cute.
And she was so panicked. She just like frozen and scared, and like just overwhelmed. But bless her. So yeah, then I proposed and she said yes. The end.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
I like, I love it when people put a lot of thought and effort into a thing. Yeah. Just like in a little surprise. Like how often you don't get surprises that often. I always think it's nice to give a wee surprise.
No, this was something my grandfather, my mum's dad, he used to always give advice to the boys. So he would have surely had to give it to me too. He's like, that's a story you're going to have to keep telling. So it should be a good one, right? Like it should be a proper yarn. Because
you don't want it to be an anticlimax.
Nah, like it was like, no, let's make it a big deal. But for her also the big thing was like, I'll make a big fuss, but I'll make sure it's just us. Because if anyone else had been there, that would have been too overwhelming to her. She's quite the shy type. So it was like, no, like it was already overwhelming enough just to have me there asking the question. So if there'd been any type of audience, that would have been maybe a no.
Yeah, not now.
Mm.
That's cute. I wonder what you'll get in return. I really hope you get one.
Yeah, no, I'm sure I would. I would imagine she will know that I am big noise, big entertainment.
Mhm,
So I
mhm,
imagine
mhm.
she will do some sort of recruitment of some people that I really enjoy and some sort of roping up to make it a like I want to be the center of attention. She's like, please never
You want the
look at me.
audience.
Yeah, my friend and I have that. You know, when people are like, who wears the pants? She's like, no, it's who's the entertainer and who's the audience in your relationship. So
Oh,
she's like, no, she knows enough that I'll want to be a show pony. So I'm sure, yeah, but no stress. I will notice. Whereas she'll walk around and be like, oh, what's missing? Nothing. I guess I'll go along on this little trip. I will be like, this seems weird. You seem weird. What's happening?
oh my god. Yeah, see, I think I would notice.
Mm,
I mean, to be fair, sorry, just ducking out just because I was getting blinded by the sun.
fair.
To be fair, I have been proposed to before,
Yeah.
and I kind of knew it was coming at a point. I just didn't know it was coming at that moment
Mm,
until the moment came, and then I'm like, something is up, something is
yeah.
up.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh God, this is what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very funny. Right after it happened, she then made me keep it a secret for like a day. Which
Oh,
was like, I was like, I have been waiting 6 months and now I'm gonna wait an extra day to tell people. But actually it was really lovely. I think honestly one of the most lovely parts was on like so we got engaged on the Thursday and then on Friday night we'd gone out for dinner. And while we were at dinner, we called people in our family and we told them kind of one by one, and that was so nice. That was
mm.
such a nice time. So as much as I was like, no, I want to tell people now. That was such a lovely time that like her kind of slowness and softness gave us, which I was like, that's so cool.
Oh, that's really cool. So we wanted to talk about motherhood, which is not
Mm.
something that you get to talk about on your rugby podcast.
No, no. Oh, sometimes I actually have written multiple things about mums and rugby and how I think we can better support them. But for the most part, it's not a day to day conversation.
Sure, sure. But this is something that you want for yourself.
Mm, mm.
How
And
did you come to know that you
yeah.
wanted it?
Well, I mean, for me, that was probably like through all the shifting and growing in parts, that was probably the one consistent part, to be honest, was that I come from a large family. I've got like I can't even count more than 5 siblings. There's a big family, and I'm the youngest of the first batch, and then there's a bunch of kids after me. So it's like I was used to having babies around me growing up and things like that. So that was always just kind of like that was the part that I was like, yeah, of course. What else
Did
would
you
I
did you like
do?
did you like them when they this is just coming from someone who like I did not
Mm,
have a lot of babies around me growing up. Came
hmm.
from, it was just me and my sister and our family.
Ah,
And then we were of all the cousins, we were kind of the youngest ones.
aha.
So I didn't get a lot of baby exposure.
Right. I would say not initially. So, because of the way that my family dynamic is configured, I went from being the youngest to having 2 little brothers within a month of each other when I was just about 5. So, my mum and my dad separated when I was like pretty much born. And then when I was 5, both mum and dad got pregnant with their new partners about the same time. So, my 2 brothers were born within a month of each other.
Wow.
And so, like, the displacement of that, I freaking hated. I was like, when my dad told me he was pregnant, I was like, I'm the only baby around here. This is. And on the day that my mum's son was born, I like, God, all the drama around that. Yeah, but with the day that he was born, I squirted him in the face with a water pistol so many times. I like had the most timeouts of my entire life. Like, was not a fan, but like got over that obviously. But the original kind of displacement was quite jarring, and then got over it. And you loved having little siblings. All of our babies in the family were so cute. Like my little brother Robbie, he was just the fattest. He used to just have his little bulldog cheeks that would hang over his chin, and it was like you couldn't
Aw.
help but love that baby. We used to drag him around and just make him a prop in our games. Like we'd be like, me and my sister would be playing Barbies, and I'd obviously have the Aladdin Barbie, and she had the Jasmine Barbie, and then he would be Sultan, just a fat little baby.
Did you dress him up?
Yeah, we just poked him in the middle, and he would just be sleeping, and we'd just like build the blocks around him into his castle. Like this
Oh,
was
the best.
so yeah. No, like once I got over it, loved babies, used to love going and visit dad's babies as well. And it just so happens every time that Alice comes over to visit and they're having a nap, Alice walks in just loud enough that they're awake actually, so I can play with them. So no, I loved them. And so that was, like I say, that was never a question. I am kind of surprised, to be honest with you, given that I was in relationships with men for like 12 years. I am kind of surprised that I just didn't get pregnant with any of them. That was, I mean, I never tried to, but just
sometimes it happens by accident.
Yeah, right.
My eldest was a surprise.
Yeah. So, I'm just surprised that kind of didn't happen. But then obviously when I came out, there was a bit of reorientation, but then like I also like it took me a sec to be like, okay, do I still want this? I obviously do, but like, do I let myself still want this? Because I know it's going to be more difficult to like
Right.
engineer. But that said, I did also still say to Bailey, like 1 month into our relationship, I was like, just so you know, I want to have kids, and I'm older than her, like, what is it, 7 years maybe? So I'm like, I want to have kids. And so like my timeline is ticking more on that because I want to carry. And so you don't have to do that with me, but I'm just letting you know that that's like within the next 5 years for me, just purely biologically, that is. And she was like, oh, I don't know if I want to have kids. And I was like, that's cool. So that'll just be the reason why we break up.
But I mean, okay, that's fine. Were you scared to tell her that you wanted kids?
No, you know what? Like, those things you hear when you're a kid and they just stick in your brain, like for some reason, like so intensely. So my mum and my stepdad were both married before they found each other. And like my stepdad's marriage, you know how the ways things can get condensed and told to you, like, yeah, there was plenty of reasons, but one of the ones I was told and most clearly understood of why their relationship didn't work is because he did want kids and she didn't. And that was always super confusing to me as a kid because I was like, how the heck do you get all the way to a marriage and not have that conversation? So I promptly made sure to have that conversation super early in every relationship I had my entire life.
Just so you know, this is how we're breaking up.
Yeah, I'm like, nobody's going to trick me into falling in love with them. Like, this isn't, you're not going to get me. So no, I know I wasn't scared. I was just like, you need to know that because that's happening.
Did she get on board? Did that take time?
It's a very interesting thing to listen to her talk about. She was at that time like a hard no, and it's interesting, like her reasons. I think her surface reason, like the one that she would give to people and probably like palatably offered, was like the environment and children and that, right? The stress of all of that. But I think her deeper reason, and one that she's more come to understand now, was like that same thing around it being hard. And so for her, she didn't kind of like, she didn't see her, like a stable relationship and set up stuff for herself yet. So she didn't really dream that part of it.
Mm-hmm.
She was like, I needed to kind of see a home and a life before I could think about what a kid would be into this. So I think now she would tell you it was more around that. It was like that she needed to feel safe first before she would start thinking about having a baby. But now she's so funny, she gets served up all the time. If I ever peek over her shoulder while she's scrolling on TikTok, it's just like baby, baby, baby. Like
the algorithm knows. I mean, our phones know us better than anybody else.
We got her. So she's now more on board. And like our rough plan, because this is the thing too, I'm like, I can see what these men are up to when they're like, buy myself more time by dating someone younger. Like, you do get out of your own mortality, because I'm like, technically we could buy a lot more time if she had carried our baby, but no. So I want to try to carry, but the rough plan is that I try to carry first, and then she has our second child. That's
cool.
That's we're making assumptions that everything works and goes well. You have to plan for that, and then you pivot when you need to. But that's the like on paper plan at this stage. Yeah.
And I love that you both get to propose. You both get to carry.
Yeah. Equals pequals. Yeah.
That's right. How much strategy have you done? Because obviously it's not the same situation as in a heterosexual couple where like you've got all of the bits that you need to make it happen.
Yeah, and there's more complexity even than that, right? Because when we start having the conversation about, okay, so I'm going to carry first. My partner is Maori, and so having that conversation with her, I still remember we went to brunch and asking her, okay, so like, what would it mean for you if you were a Maori mama and you didn't have a Maori pepe? Because I obviously can't give you whakapapa. Like, that's not something that I am able to. And she cried like immediately. And we were like, whoa, okay, so that's a thing. That's a thing we now need to also put onto our checklist. And so not only was it a case of trying to find sperm, it's also trying to find, Maori sperm to be able to put into the mix so that we can have that. And like that, then once we had that conversation, then what was the plan? The plan was my partner for a period there would get drunk at parties and ask men.
No, this was going to be my next question. And it's because I'm like, my next question is like, how do you find the sperm? Because is
Yeah.
this something that you go, and these are very personal questions. So by all means,
Yeah,
tell
yeah,
me to
yeah,
fuck
yeah.
off at any point because I feel really ignorant asking too. But like, do you go, let's find a friend? Or, is it better if it's someone we know? Or is it better if we're not connected that closely? And, because then you've got to consider, well, there's another human being that's kind of
Mhm,
involved in this. It's sort of, there's a part of them that's going to
mhm,
be in the child. Are they in it? Are they out of it? How do
mm.
you negotiate all that?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Like, I think that these things, well, the reason why it's complex is because there is no correct answer for, and like everyone. Like that is a different answer for all the different people who are trying to do this, because there'll be different things that different people have as like what feels right to them in terms of pulling this all together. So like for me personally, I really have quite an aversion to the sterility of the fertility clinic. There is just something around, well, firstly, they won't talk to me because my BMI says no. Like they will not help me.
Wow.
Yeah, that's crazy, right? Like I know my body and I know how I'm healthy and fine and all of this, but by their calculations, no, I don't get a look in. So I would have to lose like a bunch of weight before they would like go down to a weight I haven't been since I was like 15 in order for
Holy
them to.
smokes. That must be an intense parameter that they're holding there.
Yeah, I think it's just like, honestly, it's because the BMI is bullshit, right? And we all know that. Like, again, if we're talking about the history of all these medical tests, man, like I love, don't get me wrong, love a vaccine. Hooray. But some of these like arbitrary measures that we try to do to try and standardize bodies actually don't work. And so BMI was originally invented in like the some random European war to basically make sure that you were feeding your soldiers enough. Like that's where it came from. And then it was co-opted by the American insurance world to like try and be able to set, standards for white male workers. And so again, there is layers of race that are like discriminated against in terms of how BMI works. But there's also just like, it's such an arbitrary measure. I remember when I was at my peak in terms of an athlete, and if you did my skin filled stuff and my body fat percentage was super low, but by like the arbitrary measure of, height divided by weight, I was still over, like I was still deemed overweight at that time. So like I'm like, no, I don't subscribe to that. And so I've had to work really hard to love my body and what it can do and what it looks like and all of that. So I don't want to be making myself unwell in order to get
Yeah.
treatment.
And
Like,
and it seems really counterproductive. Like if you're well now and then they actually go, well, you can only, get treatment here if you actually do something that's going to make you probably quite unwell.
yeah, because like maybe physically you could argue it might be healthier, but like that's dubious. But because also, have you like met women over 30? Like we all just get larger. And so maybe that's our biology. Like I just think there's certain things that we're trying to force on people where I'm like, maybe the fact that everyone just gets a bit bigger in their 30s, maybe that's what our bodies are supposed to do. And maybe rather than freaking out about that, we should just like be cool with it. So there's that. But it's just like I also know the mental stress of that would be way too much. Like that would undo so much work I have had to do up here in my head that I'm like,
Yeah.
nah, fuck off. So unless I have to, unless I have like, so our plan is like outside of that.
Mm-hmm.
So unless like that it comes up that I have a fertility issue, which is just like straight people, only at that point will I engage with the system. Like
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
feel like
yeah.
I need to make this medical before then. And then, in terms of like how do you source it, whatever. Like I say, Bailey for a time there was making
So for a
jokes.
while, you're pitching at parties.
Yeah, but like we weren't ever seriously. Like that wasn't.
But what if someone was like, "Yeah, I'm in."
I
Like,
mean,
or
look.
how many people were at the party quite keen?
I think she managed to find a few, but like I say, that wasn't it for me, because again, like in terms of different people organizing things differently, like I knew, and I think this is because my parents separated when I was young. I knew it was always important for me that there was a visibility for baby on who is their dad. I don't have a problem
Mhm.
calling it dad, because honestly, dad is a word, like you make it into what it
What it
means.
means.
So like they need to know who dad is, because that's otherwise, like, again, I know what that's like in terms of I am temperamentally a lot like my dad, and then I was raised primarily in the home with my mum and my stepdad, and that could have caused real tensions for me if I didn't know that, oh, like I'm not wrong, I'm just like dad. Like that's I just have some of these, you know, idiosyncrasies from him rather than
Mm,
from mum, and that's normal,
mm.
right? So there's that. There's also around also for us, with a Maori baby, like we need to understand whakapapa. So that's also like having that visibility in line is also important.
Mm.
I personally, again, felt like inherently uncomfortable with the idea that, like, look, and then this is where it was like, this is starting to get quite niche. Can we find someone? But like, I want to be able to, like, we are primary caregivers, we are mums, we are the nuclear unit. But it felt really odd to me that there's no visibility to who that extra person is. And so,
Mhm.
like, my ideal scenario sees that role is kind of playing like an uncle almost. Like, you're there on big events, but you're not like day to day. But we do know who you are, and we're never hiding or being, ashamed of that. But it's just like, and you can determine how much you are involved with the kid, but I never wanted it to be a secret. And I also felt weird if all you did was gave sperm and then never cared what happened to it. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a little thing.
No, and it kind of needs to be a special person, because when that person does turn up, you want your child to be like, "Oh, and that's part of where I came from." And like you want them to be kind of a mentor.
Yes, but also I'm a child of divorce, so I know that
Same.
people are fuck ups. You know what I mean? Like that, like that they might be, and that's also fine. And like, you don't need 100% from both parents all the time. Like, fucking 80% from one of them is pretty good to get you through. Like,
Yeah,
I
that's
just,
great.
you know,
Anything over 50, I think, frankly, is acceptable.
but do you know what I mean? I just think there's an element of like, yes, we don't want that person to be a damaging person in their life, but we don't need them to be all things.
Yeah,
And
no,
like,
totally.
and that also that concept too of like tension between, like, that there is, again, having known this from my own life with my stepdad, who's been around since I was 2, and my dad's second wife was around from when I was around that young to when I was, my mid-teens. They still have different roles in my life. It's like you can only ever add more love in. It's not like a pie that you splice up. You just have more. And so
Yeah.
if there's more adults involved in a kid's life, then cool. Like,
Yeah.
it's not going to erode my position to have an
No.
extra person that loves the kid. Like, that's
Yeah.
just an extra person.
I totally agree. And because, my kids have a stepmom now.
Uh-huh.
My ex-husband's remarried, and I'm just like, that's so cool. Like, she
Mm.
loves them, they love her. I'm like, they have another adult that loves them
Yeah,
and that's
cool.
looking out for them and that cares about what's happening to them. I'm like, that's so cool. So, have you found this
Yeah,
person?
we have, yes. So we've been lucky.
Amazing.
And so again, like, when did that eventually came from? Like, as much as the joke of talking at parties, the other thing was, were we just talking to our friends in general? When it would come up, with people would be like, "Oh, have you ever thought about having kids?" We'd be like, "Yeah, actually, we have, and this is kind of what we're looking for. So if you know anyone," and so then, yeah, eventually a friend of mine was like, "Yeah, I think I do," and so we met with him and we had the conversation, and he is very chill to kind of tick off all of those boxes. And we were kind of like, after the first time we met him, Bailey and I were like, that seemed too easy. Like, What is the catch? Because this seems great. I don't like. He seems super chill, very on board to that kind of dynamic that we were talking about. Doesn't want kids himself, but doesn't hate kids. Is just cool. Like, go for your life. He's queer himself, and I think that helps. Like, in terms of understanding
Yeah.
just how hard it is to make a family for us, and yeah, just open to that. And so that's really cool.
That's
And
beautiful.
like, so we're lucky that we've been able to do that. The interesting thing too is like the first things people tell you, it's well meaning, but like straight away people will tell you, oh, you're not going to use one of your siblings. Like they said that, or like cousins to like both Bailey and I. I'm like, no, way too close and weird. Like I don't want a fucking cousin kid. Like this is no, I don't want that.
Yeah, it's a bit confusing.
I don't like it. I really like that we have built an intentional relationship with this man, that like we didn't know each other before, and we're not trying to then transition a relationship from one thing to another. It is very like
It's all based around
we have
this.
met with that understanding that that is primarily like what we're coming together for, and then like a friendship has developed off of that, but that was where we started, and that feels right to me. So yeah, no, not using brothers or cousins. I've had queer mates of mine who like their own brother, and they're like, dude, you understand like what you're proposing. It's very nice, but it's also incest. Like, don't.
This is not recommended.
I don't think you've thought through what this means. I also know people whose dads have offered to give their partners, and they're like, also no, weird, don't, no.
Yeah.
Like we're not that desperate for sperm, you know?
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So like that's one of the things. The other one that people tell you is straight away, like, go to lawyers and start drawing up papers. And I, again, maybe people will call me naive or whatever. I don't feel right about that. And I don't feel right about that because honestly, again, how many of you fuckers, excuse me, language, but also that's what you're doing to make the babies. How many of you
Tell me I'm wrong.
how many of you are going around as soon as you find out you're pregnant with even like your partner of varying lengths of time, turning up with a piece of paper the next day and saying, this is how our relationship's going to work?
Mm.
You don't. So why are you telling me I have to? And I know it comes from a well-meaning place, but the reality is in New Zealand, we can put two women's names on the birth certificate, and that's what we'll be doing. And so like outside of that, I don't need to be lawyering up. Like if we can't make this work as a relationship, then like it's going to be causing problems anyway. Like, I don't know. I feel like there is a level of certainty that people want that you can't plan for. Like, I'm sure when you plan to have your kids, you're like, this is it. This is my man. We're going to have our family, and that's going to be us forever. And then it wasn't, right?
Yeah.
And you figured it out.
You do. Because you're people, and you're people the whole way through, you know?
Yeah.
And you don't know what you're going to be planning for. You just cross each bridge as it comes.
Right. And I just think, yeah, it's really interesting. It comes from, I think, like I say, a well-meaning place, but I'm just like, please stop putting your anxieties on me. Yeah. I know what mine are. And
let me get anxious all by myself.
Yeah.
For my own special reasons.
1000%. But it's going to be different because each of us have our own baggage from our own things. But that's not one of them for me. I trust that I can negotiate that when it comes to like that's all you actually can do. And there's like, yeah, other people who are like, oh, you know, you really got to have the whanau before you can. It's like, yes, absolutely, as much as we can be clear on what our expectations are, but also like, how much can you really talk about until the kid turns up and they'll tell you a lot of it too, right?
Like you learn, you don't parent your child teaches you how to be a parent.
Right? Yep. And then like also the variability between kids. I know I tried to have this conversation with my mum around, I think I was quite a difficult kid for you to parent. I think my other siblings were probably easier for you in different ways. There were things about me that were difficult just for who you were as a person. And that's not bad. It's just like, that's tricky, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always going to be difficulties. There's always going to be obstacles. You can't plan to get around them.
Yeah.
It's just, and you don't even know what you're planning for. So there's no point trying to mitigate something you don't know you need to be concerned about. It's going to be a really amazing journey. And I hope that it works and goes smoothly. And let's circle back if we can.
Yeah. I mean, we will start trying at the end of the year. So we will see what happens from there. And then it will be, you know, what it's going to be. And we'll figure it out from there. But yeah, hopefully we have a little person that's running around and we can be silly with, you know, that's the...
Yeah. Oh, I hope so too.
Yeah.
I hope so too. Thank you, Alice, for sharing that. There's probably a lot more we could go into.
I just want to say, like, to any of the queer folks that are listening, is like, it's just really on there around, there are so many more options than necessarily like what people say and think to you. The first thing they're going to say to you, there is literally one fertility clinic in New Zealand. Did you know that? It's just Fertility Associates. Like,
No.
they've got a monopoly on it, right? So like, there's straight away there's that, and like, yes, if that's what makes you feel safe and feel like you can be confident, go through that process. And what I'd also say is there are some things on their website that, like, even if you don't interact with them, are good prompts to start thinking about and helping you have those conversations with people that might be a donor for you. I think if you're like wanting to do it outside of that, again, making sure that it's with someone that you feel safe. And then outside of that, like, honestly, just give yourself a break. Like, it's all kind of just going to be what it's going to be. We can make a little plan and do whatever, but then ultimately just putting it out there and being open to it, hopefully some way that finds it to you. And you've got to also have faith in that, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. Are there any ways that queer folks can connect with one another who are doing this journey, or like somehow find one another? Because I guess, in a lot of ways you're making your own path depending on what your choices are as a couple.
I mean, that's a good question, and I'd have to go and like have a dig, like, to figure it out. But I would also say, like, reach out to your local queer collectives. Like, I do know the one for us here in the Hutt Valley recently. Very cool. They've started like a rainbow antenatal. Which, like, how
Cool.
good is that? Because like,
That's cool.
I know my friends.
That sounds fun, actually. I'd rather go there.
I know my friends who are two women who went along to just a rego one, and they had to go around the circle, and like, one of the questions they asked was like, was it planned? And they were like, what do you think? Like, what are you doing? And then also my friend got really stressed at my other friend for like not being able to label diagrams correctly. She's like, you have these pieces too. How do you not know where they are? You're letting us down.
So good.
So like, yeah, I like I say, I know that there's that. I know that there has been in the past, there have been like rainbow like Plunkett groups and stuff, which is really cool. And I just really think, because to be honest with you, that is probably one of my biggest pieces of anxiety, is how many straight people I'm going to have to engage with on the regular. Like, dads stress me out. Although I did also get told by another one of my friends, she's like, oh my God, the dads all think their wives are in love with me. And she's like, and I think probably about half of them are at school pickup.
They should be threatened.
Yeah!
Like,
I will steal your wife, Steve. So no, like, it's going to be negotiating that, because like, for a lot of my life now, it's quite queer. And so it'll just be like coming back into contact with it. Like, obviously, I'm not saying there's lots of lovely straight folks. You're one of them, but like, I'm just that dynamic and getting back into that space, particularly where it's like such a gendered space still, right? And all those roles and stuff. I'm a bit stressed about it.
I had a funny moment. We're going to have to wrap up in a minute because
Okay.
I've got a sort of to get to. But I had a funny moment. My daughter changed school at the beginning of this year, and so me and my ex-husband and his wife, we all get along really well. So we're all going along together to things, and his wife and I sort of entered the school gates first, and he was just standing chatting to someone a little bit further back, and we met another parent, started a conversation, and she was like, oh yeah, and where are you, and da, 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 and I'm here, and figuring out where everyone lived, and she was looking between us, and I'm going, she thinks we're the couple. She 100% thinks we're the couple, and I'm like, I'm loving this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, I will not be correcting you either.
Oh no, I know. I'm pretty sure people thought I was walking. My niece and my nephew were just visiting last week, and my sister was here too. And so I was, on auntie duty with my sister out. And I'm pretty sure, like, it wasn't actually the straight folks. It was a number of other queer people who were giving me like really encouraging face. And I was like, oh,
like, thanks,
you think
guys.
this is my little queer family? I know these kids do look a lot like me because they're my niece and my nephew, but no, like, that's my sister.
I'm just practicing on these ones. But check back here.
Yeah, so funny, but
so good, so good. Well, Alice, it's been an absolute joy. Thank you so much for coming here again and joining me.
Thank you. And thank you to all of your listeners too, putting up with this one. We'll be back, to normal.
I've loved it.
Yeah.
Back to normal programming soon, but hey,
Yeah.
you are welcome back anytime.
Yeah, maybe I'll meet Maddie, see what she's up to.
Do you know what? Why not? I
Yeah.
think we'd have a whale of a time.
Oh, good on you. Thanks, Hannah.
All right. Thanks, Alison. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We will be back with you soon. Mā te wā.